Hello, welcome to the DD podcast. This is where we speak to female experts about all things relevant to working women in India today. Think about career, work, finance, health and wellness, everything. In this episode, Anshika and I sat down with Swarnima, the co founder at Gytree, an entire ecosystem for women's health. She had so much to tell us about the landscape of women's health, the few big wins we've seen in the past decade, what the future could look like, and what are women thinking today and what we could do for them. Let's dive in. Hi, Swarnima. Thank you for being here. We are super glad to be doing this. I think Anshika and I have made this a Saturday routine. We're super glad that so many people decide to talk to us each weekend. I think the goal is to now set up one every Saturday at least till we're able to do more of these. This is the DD podcast. I know we've chatted about our projects in earlier. The idea today is to one talk to you about three large themes, and I will not reveal them right now, but we'll dive in directly. So Swarnima, what we'll probably get started with, right? We've obviously Anshika and I have done our homework, and before we get to say specific questions about the work you do in women's health, we want to understand your background, why this area, because what I saw was for you, this has not been, say, a pivot from one area to women's health. You've been in this for a long period of time, right? And the specific question I have for you is, what was your experience personally as a woman growing up? What were you told about, taking care of yourself from your parents, from people around you, and how did that sort of percolate down to the work you do today?
Sure. No, that's a great question. Okay. So now coming to, yes, you're right. I think I have been in the women's health space or the healthcare space at large for, I think, since the beginning of my career. I mean, gender and health and the intersections of it have been something that's just been my whole career so far. And I think that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life because it is something that I feel deeply passionate about. And not just deeply passionate about, I just feel that this is something that is at the intersection of all aspects of human development. So when you said that, what has been my experience with healthcare, what has been, what was I taught about, taking care of myself and things like that. you know um, I'm born and brought up in Lucknow in a fairly middle classish family. And one thing that I realized is I didn't have the tools or the vocabulary to articulate it back then. But one thing that I realized is that health is really not just about disease. And this makes even more of a difference to understand this in the context of women. So the fact that these days it's become very common for women in power or women who are celebrities to talk about their experiences of motherhood, even menopause, or and they share often that Smriti Irani gave an interview some time ago, and even that actress, that amazing person, what's her name, the X-Files lady,
The X-Files lady.
You know what I'm talking about?
Radhika was not.
No, I'll just tell you. See, this is the reason we.
Kalki, both
No.
of us are really bad with movies.
Yeah, I know. Just give me a second.
X-Files, Gillian Anderson.
Gillian Anderson, yes. So, so Smriti Irani and Gillian Anderson recently gave interviews and they spoke about their postpartum experience. That, Smriti Irani said that, I come from a very poor family and my daily wages mattered a lot to me. So 3 days after my delivery, I was back at work. And Gillian Anderson said that, there was so much pressure, there was so much guilt around me being pregnant while I was working. So I lost no time in, coming back to work right after giving birth, and I didn't take better care of myself. So what I realized at that point of time was that there are additional social and cultural pressures on women on a daily basis. And even if their vitals and blood reports and everything are fine, which are considered the markers of healthcare, they were just not, I would say, in the optimum state of well-being. And I realized, there is, now we talk about fatigue and things like that. But at that time, I did not have the tools or the vocabulary to really give it a name. But I just felt that, the women that I was seeing around me, my mom, my aunts, my mom was a teacher, but I remember her saying that, look, this is a career I'm choosing because, it gives me some freedom, but at the same time, I can come back home at the right time to take care of my family. But what I would see was that, she was waking up at the crack of dawn and she was the last person to sleep. And it was just a very, strange kind of pressure that I saw women dealing with, and also never complaining, but they would also not be very happy. They would also be a bit, always under pressure. There would be no leisure time for women. So I just felt that this was something that I saw affecting women's own state of well-being. It's I saw that there was a lot of pressure among middle class kids to do exponentially well because parents were sacrificing and things like that. And I just saw that a lot of interconnections were made between what was parents well-being and what was therefore the child's priority and direction in life. And it had a obviously very gendered layer. So to be honest, of course I was told that, oh, you know what, your health matters, health is most important. But I really saw that there were always additional layers to health than disease or sickness or just being disease free. And at that point of time, I mean, India and across the world, preventative health already has, it doesn't have a very, people don't prioritize it financially or otherwise, or even in the space of public policy that much. But I thought that it was more than just preventative health also. And then when I started working in the space of public health, I finally found the term for it. It's called health related quality of life, which
Huh?
is such an important metric, that it should become, and it is becoming slowly a part of clinical parameters. But what is your quality of life? Are you, a lot of people, do this as part of longevity studies or whatever. But this is something that made me truly passionate. The reason why I gravitated towards gender and health, there was always a gender slant to everything that I did, or a healthcare slant to everything that I did. So this was something that really informed me. I really saw that women were not in an optimum state of well-being, even if they did not have any diseases. I saw that, their lives were definitely marked and defined by invisible but ever present cultural and social pressures within the family and outside of it. Even their professional choices had to be very tailored to what were family priorities or community oriented priorities. And I just this hypothesis just took seed in my mind that, are women in India truly living fulfilling, joyous, abundant lives? And I'm realizing that yes, they are trying their best to. And so many people are developing those tools and those systems and those processes, but it's a work in progress. The answer is not a resounding yes. So that's
Yeah.
basically what informed my
Yeah.
professional journey.
These businesses wouldn't exist if the answer was a resounding yes, right? I mean,
Exactly.
to be
Yeah,
honest.
exactly.
I have a lot of questions, but I will start with one of them. When you said this, right, that earlier there were no markers or vocabulary to define that, okay, while my vitals are on point, right, while I've delivered a healthy child, I'm healthy, I'm still not feeling good inside, right? I'm still, how do you define that?
Yeah.
I think now we are beginning to create those markers to sort of or name those things, right? Postpartum depression, for example. I don't think I read about it as much 10 years ago than I read about it now, right? So if we look at these differences, what would you say is one of the large problems we've solved in the last decade? Is it these markers and vocabulary or the conversations, or is it something else entirely? And especially in women's health, right? And I realize women's health is, say, a big umbrella, but I'll leave it to you to sort of come down to the specifics.
No, that's a good question. So, the thing is that I get this version of question asked several times. What are the big wins in healthcare, for women in the last decade or so? And I always say that the largest win for women's health is actually the fact that women are entering the workforce. I think that has made fundamentally the biggest difference. So, women entering the workforce in large numbers, okay? Of course, I'm going to keep aside the factor that that large number is still a very tiny percentage, and we are still not, very high in the world rankings and all of that. But no, women at work, whether it is, a mompreneur doing a cloud kitchen from home, or a grandmompreneur doing a YouTube video, or whatever it is, like there is just a wide range of how we are defining work. But, women joining the workforce, women, finding those tools to earn even a bit of money, and, negotiating better financial lives for themselves. I think that has been a game changer in two very critical ways. One is that it has really given women spaces and platform, and then they're creating it themselves to just come together and talk about common experiences. So if you go to a mom's generations and things, at least my mom's generation, and I'm talking at an average, the average Indian, this thing, there were so few avenues for women to find common ground. It was always, about family, community, this and that, right? Then women started going outside of smaller towns to study abroad, and these women's PGs and women's hostels became a thing. Then women's communities, in corporate workforces or various other things, or women who are working so basically smaller communities where women were basically talking about things to each other and finding more and more common grounds. Like the common ground that women were technically finding, that was just increasing, like, phenomenally, right? Then the second thing was the digital boom, when women were going online to seek information. When women were going online to search for better doctors, they were moving outside of the family doctor framework to some extent. They were just asking questions. Even if they were just asking, their friends and family, they were asking those questions, right? So I think these were two big impetuses for conversations around just well-being to perforate, right? And one of the things was that I am very, very firmly of this opinion. And this is, deeper than just, yes, when women are on there. Like, the thing is that there is no women's physical and mental health without women's financial health, because it's not just about spending capacity. It's really about your elevated negotiating power in your setting. If you are earning money, this is just how the structure of the world is right now. If you're earning money, you are in a better bargaining power. And then you're able to bargain better for yourself in different aspects of life. Of course, you can spend better money on yourself and your priorities, but even just, negotiating better for your children, negotiating better for your girl children. Okay, even if I'm not able to take care of myself, can I send my daughter to a better school than I went to? So I think that women's well-being is absolutely interconnected with women's financial know-how and financial means. And I think that has been a transformative thing in the last decade or so. Women entering the workforce, redefining what workforce really means, negotiating better, becoming more public, speaking out more, becoming influencers, creators, all of that, right? And that has led to more women creating and building for women. I mean, a women's health platform would not exist if there were no companies out there who first created, okay, a women's community company or something like that. So more and more, uh, when we put the spotlight on women as consumers and spenders, through the digital medium, that really paved the way for conversations around women's health to also shift. And therefore we're talking more about postpartum depression, therefore we're talking more about PCOS diets or mental health, or sexual harassment at the workplace. That's also a healthcare indicator, right? So yeah, I think that is what's been the big shift in the last decade or so, which has rewritten the story of
Yeah.
women's healthcare journeys.
I think you answered one of our questions also, where I wanted to tell you that, okay, you've noticed this shift of sorts. And what is it that you want to be the next step, right? And what I hear from you is for women to make one, some money for themselves, and two, obviously, for that to gradually increase. How I see this, as in, this is not a question per se. I think the thought is that only when women see some money coming in that they've made, like the ability to make money, will they then start thinking about the next level, right? Like if your baselines aren't covered, how are you then thinking about, okay, what do I do for my health?
See,
Do
I
you
mean,
think that's what you
basically,
meant?
yeah, the thing is that I just want to, I want us to imagine this a little bit more than just when I have money, I will think more about my health.
Okay.
It is basically the idea of optimum well-being. You know, I'll tell you something. I mean, maybe this is something I can deep dive into the latter part of the podcast when we're talking about Gayatri and everything. But
Yeah.
one of the things that people come to us with a lot of clinical diagnosis and things like that, a PCOS, this, that, blah, blah, blah. But when we say, okay, what are your largest priorities? Bilkul en masse, what people say without exception is that, look, I just don't want this inconvenience of irregular periods and fluctuating weight. I just need this, things to just stabilize. So it's not, and then we say, okay, fine, let's first tackle your skin and hair issues or your period issues or your hormonal health. That's our job to look at it clinically. But how women are articulating is that I don't want disruptions in my daily life. I don't want to, have something random at the back of my head on it. This is how they articulate it, right? And that is what we need to understand, that when it comes to health, when it comes to money, what women essentially want to solve for is optimum well-being, optimum decision making, negotiating better for themselves. They want to travel more, they want to be more productive, they want to be more energetic, they want to, make better choices for themselves, have more choices for themselves. That is essentially what the bedrock is. It's not that I just need to reverse my PCOS. That's not how they're essentially articulating it, even if that's the hook. So when we're talking about financial freedom, it's just that has long been a marker of thriving, of prospering, right? So when women start earning, when they start going out, they start traveling abroad, it's like they're building cachet for themselves, right? So it's more than the quantum of money and what it can buy them in terms of better healthcare. It's really about increasing their socio-cultural cachet, for which they can bargain for a better life for themselves.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. That is super helpful. I think, yeah, it's interesting. This is new for me. I don't know if you've written about this more or where you talk about this more, right? But someday I think we just need to sit down and talk about like optimum well-being for sure.
Yeah.
Swarnima, because you mentioned Gayatri, do you want to tell us more about the kind of work you do there? And the reason I asked this specifically is because when you set the context for what you do, what you're building with Gayatri, we'll be able to then ask you, what do you think um, 5 big wins would look like for women's health in India today, right? But yeah, tell us more about what you're building.
Right. So Gayatri is an early stage women's health startup. We are very fortunate that we are backed by visionaries in the country, like Dr. Kiran Mazumdar Shaw, who blazed a trail of her own decades ago. Then, of course, Rain Matter VC, which is transforming and reimagining the way VC funds should be deployed. So, and Gayatri was founded by Shelly Chopra, who already, created quite a, difference with She the People, and then I joined her as co-founder. So, what we're building at Gayatri is, again, our mission statement is very simple. We're a full stack women's health platform. So whether it is the right products that help your life, or it is guided programs and experts who are just making healthcare very convenient for you. For us, we are promoting women's, optimum health, right? Of course, we are looking and across all life stages. So it's not just that, fertility and pregnancy and things like that, which is basically what women's health unfortunately gets essentialized as. And that's not good for anybody, by the way, because people just forget about the mother's health after the child is born, and that's just a problem. So we are basically looking at women's health across all life stages and solving it robustly with convenience, with the right experts, with science-backed programs and science-backed products, right? So one of the things that is very key to us is that, look, it's not just about getting you a doctor. If it was just about getting you into a doctor's clinic, then really we would have eradicated disease. So we recognize that healthcare is, it starts with the doctor's consultation. It starts with the doctor's consultation. You get diagnosed, or perhaps you don't get diagnosed, you need a second opinion. Then you need some, say a pelvic floor specialist or a pain management specialist or a nutritionist or a physiotherapist to get you better, right? And that is where the leakage happens, because it takes too much time, effort, and mind space to search for the right doctor, to search for the right expert, to get, a care team that holistically manages your care. And, you will, if you just do like a very ad hoc survey of women in your thing, how many times have you seen a gynac? How many preventative checks have you taken? Do you know when to see a gynac? Do you know which of those symptoms are big enough to warrant a gynac visit? You'll find very, oh yeah, I went to my family doctor once. They told me to take an ultrasound. I did that ultrasound, but yeah, then I felt better, then I left it. It's a very common experience, right? So our mission statement is very simple, that A, we recognize that women need differentiated care. It's not about access. It's not just about access or affordability. It's really that when women are busy at home and at work, then healthcare is not, that optimum well-being does not become your topmost priority, even if you want to put it, even if you have the awareness that that's what you need. So our programs are designed in such a way that we become the bridge for you. So, our programs are, okay, fine, you have all these experts, but our USP is that every woman who comes to a platform, she gets a dedicated Gytree guide who becomes that bridge and that, agent of follow-ups and reminders and motivation building. Okay. All our programs. And the second thing is that when we're tackling a, health condition or a health need, we call it a health need. Okay. So whether it's menopause or the whole gamut of things you need for menopause or fertility or PCOS or whatever, we recognize that it's not just about a gynac. We also give you a nutritionist. We also give you a therapist. So all programs, and we also give you products that, like which are, health supplementations. These are not, random products. We have a chief scientific advisor who actually, we sit and talk about the formulations. We choose our manufacturers. We do all of these things. So it's all very mindfully curated. It's delivered with love. We love to say that it's delivered with love, because, sometimes it's just about how women are talking to themselves, that, yeah, dekh lenge, kar lenge. But, no, we need more. So we do that compassionate talking, and we do that, sometimes tough love talking to some of our customers that, look, we understand you're very busy, but there is no excuse for not taking that 20-minute conversation in 2 months, so just get with it, so things like that. So it's a very simple mission statement, but a very, very, very large problem to solve, because there's a social layer, there's an economic layer to it, there is a market size layer, there is a mindset layer. So we're tackling these all one by one, but that's essentially what we're building. And yeah.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I am guilty of like one checkup and one step towards
So
it,
am
and
I.
like taking it.
So am I. Yeah.
Because yeah, you get better than that. Like I don't know, AK, has like that been there for you? I'm
Yeah.
guilty of it for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Everyone.
The
All
number
of
of times Shani has like scolded me to go see a gynac is not crazy. And that's just gynac. And then comes like extra levels of help.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And it just doesn't become a priority.
It does become a
Yeah.
priority. Yeah.
What do you tell
But
these women then, Swarnima? Like if these women, I mean, it's their health, but it's their life, right? Like, and you know that they want to do it. It's not like they don't want to be healthy, right? So what do you tell this woman who's gone for this one checkup, knows she wants to get better, but in the short term, things have gotten fine. So she's pushed it to like, what do you tell this woman? Like,
Yeah.
like even from a business level, but how are you speaking to this woman?
So, we've realized one thing that, and, any healthcare practitioner will tell you, like in the middle of, I mean, at the intersection of, healthcare delivery and, patient psychology, etc., that the only way to motivate people to keep coming back and keep reprioritizing things is to call out, identify, call out, and measure small wins. So one thing that we prioritize is that, so the average consultation time on Gayatri is at least 30 minutes. I'm talking about even a gynac. Okay. So the first win that we give you is that have a detailed consultation with a GP or a gynac. Okay. Just talk it out, talk your heart out. And immediately the person, sees a win there, because that's not the usual experience out there. You're waiting in a line, there are 10 other people waiting behind you, or there's this quick, like suboptimal experience of an online consultation. There's a virtual line behind you. The doctor is sometimes in a hurry or whatever it is. So we are, whenever somebody is onboarded in any way, whether you take a product or you take a program, the first consultation is something that we prioritize like anything. So this is a freewheeling chat. Of course, the doctor will take your history and they will tell you, but we tackle questions such as, hey, what's your travel time? How much time are you spending on the phone, like talking? Like, how many hours are you just spending talking? You know, forget about like number of people say, okay, are you sleeping 8 hours a day? But people are not able to sleep 8 hours a day because they do not know how to de-stress through the day, right? You're talking, and that thing is in your subconscious, you're barely sleeping or whatever. So we see to it that this consultation seems like magic to you. The first consultation, we have seen that from the moment the first consultation, like the first, when the Gayatri guide calls you, generally at an average, people set up an average of 3 to 4 next consultations. And what we say is, yeah, so what we say is that, that, okay, even if you're speaking to a nutritionist, our policy over here is do not throw diet plans at people right off the bat. Diet plans are boring and intimidating, and frankly, nobody is able to follow them, right? What we tell you is that if you say, I'm just saying that you're whatever, like say I want to lose weight, the most common thing that people come to us with. Yeah. We know that these people are not going to follow a diet. Okay. But what do people need to do? We need to tell them that, okay, you know what? Let's tackle what is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning and what is the last thing you do? Let's just focus on that. And what does the science say about it? Okay. What happens is that, if you talk to women, they will tell you that half the time they don't even understand the medication that they've been given. They don't understand what there is. People say, okay, drink 8 glasses of water. But why? What does it actually do? Okay, take 10,000 steps. Broad generalization. But what does it? Yeah, it releases endorphins and makes you happy. And I'm like, dude, I do not feel happy. I'm anxious all the time. Like, what is this? Like, so there are precise, nuanced sciences behind every little thing. Like chew properly or whatever it is. There are, like your gut health starts with the way you chew or whatever. An average doctor will not tell you because we don't give doctors a time. That's just how the medical systems are unfortunately set up. Yeah. So we say, okay, let's just talk about your water intake. Let's just do this for 1 week. Let's just do this for 10 days. Basic things which people start becoming so curious about. Basic things that people start becoming so excited about that, oh, I drank water. It really, the small wins, the science-backed things, these are transformative. So then it does not, then people become invested in this incremental journey. Then people become invested that, what, this made me feel so good. Just this much made me feel so good. Imagine what more I can do if I don't know, eat more fruits. Just
Yeah.
So that's why what I said is that it's not just our innovation over here is not that we are getting you the best doctors. Our innovation over here is that we really understand how to deliver care in a way that makes women specifically motivated, that makes them feel heard. So that's where our innovation and creativity really is.
I'm super curious. How are you, and this is like personal curiosity, how are you finding these doctors and experts? And I've been curious about similar businesses who have been able to put together, say, non-judgmental doctors, for example, a proactive or herd, for example, right? So I've been always curious, how is it that you find them, right? Because what you said, at a large level, these doctors don't have the time, right? They are always on a clock. They're sort of like my gynec, for example, was doing shifts at 3 hospitals and for multiple reasons, right? For whatever, it could be her personal choice. But I'm curious, what have you been able to crack as a business in terms of
Yeah, so I will not give it all away, to be honest, but I'll just tell you the basics.
Yeah.
So these are the same doctors that are doing shifts in 3 other places, right? These are high quality doctors, and you have to invest in them, both in terms of time and money. But you have to be a bit creative because we don't start off our journeys with buttloads of money, right? We don't have all that money. So I think the first trick is to find mission-driven doctors who, and it's not easy, but it's also become relatively easy because there are a lot of gynacs out there who are, who are doing this in a role. Like, there are also, I mean, there are a lot of doctors who are invested in disrupting an ecosystem, which is actually fine, frankly, tiring them out as well. At the end of the day, doctors also want outcomes. And there are enough number of mission-driven doctors who are willing to be a bit creative with, okay, let me see what is this company doing. Let me give this a try. They're willing to invest in you, and we also invest in these experts in terms of training, in terms of quality. Like, for example, my job is to just chat with all our experts as frequently as possible. That, okay, what are we really doing with these endometriosis people? What are we really doing with people who've come to us with multiple pregnancy losses? How are we getting their trust back into this this thing that the medical system will solve something for me? Because that is exactly, like, if you I don't know how old you guys are, but if you talk to like an average, you guys are very young, but if you talk to like average like 30-year-olds or something, they are frustrated with the healthcare system. They're frustrated with lack of diagnoses. They are frustrated with my one nutritionist says this, another one says that. They're frustrated with this glut of information that's online, right? So how do we get that trust back? It's so common, when I'm on a sales for something. So, yeah, but I've tried everything. I went to that doctor in XYZ, insert fancy name, hospital, but I paid so much, but उन्होंने कुछ, but वो हुआ ही नहीं ना कुछ. So I have just started thinking that, it's all about your own willpower. This is what the average woman out there is saying, right? So there is we have to be a bit creative that, women who've had bad experiences, how do we get them to trust a slightly creative, this thing? And yes, of course, there are a lot of companies trying to tackle them in different ways. And, it's not an apples to apples, kind of comparison. Some people are doing it by improving your experience within a clinical setting. Some people are doing it by, giving you holistic care in a very innovative way. Some people are doing it by innovating on the data delight, So different companies are solving for it in different ways, but it's essentially how an individual is defining their own healthcare priorities. For everyone, the healthcare priorities is not the same. Even like 10 people with the same condition, they will have a different healthcare journey. And how to make it as personalized as possible, that's basically where the crux of the healthcare innovation in India lies today.
Got it. That is helpful. Just like curious, like I said. Swarnima, before I get to, sort of your work and life, and then, I have some questions as young entrepreneurs. But before I get to that, what we were curious about is, because I know that with Gytree, you have, set up corporate programs, right? You met and collaborated with corporations to sort of put up programs for their female employees. What has their reaction been like? Like, how do, where does like their female employees' health come in the priority list for them, right? Has there been, what expectation did you go into this with, and how has the reaction been?
Right. So, I'll be very candid. See, employee well-being is a priority for employers. Okay. It is absolutely a priority. This is also a huge change that has come about, in the last, decade or so. I would say actually more recent, it's in the last 5-7 years or so.
Correct.
Of course, especially post-COVID, but I think employers who have the right, who have the financial bandwidth, and even those who don't, I think it's definitely a priority. And every company does it in their own way. If you're a young startup, you're doing it and you know that the grind cannot be avoided. They negotiate the employee well-being piece in their own way. Bigger corporates and bigger startups who have cash coffers, they of course do it in different ways. So we definitely find that employee well-being, diversity, equity, inclusion, it is something that people are no doubt starting to take seriously. Okay, of course, in varying degrees. Some, of course, there are always a lip service people, there everywhere. Of course, that's there. But at least this conversation is happening, right? So I would say that impulse is there. Now, the problem that we are trying to solve, which is a harder problem to convince people, is that the current healthcare workplace policies are not serving women as well. I'm not sure how much is serving men also, but it's definitely not customized for women in a very good way. Number one is that we really think that the secret sauce of healthcare outcomes is the way healthcare is being delivered. If you just an app on your phone, okay, I have like this large menu of doctors, okay, it's not enough. Currently, there are some very good, workplace. Well, of course, there are some companies who've gone a step ahead and they have these employee assistance programs. Of course, that's there, but it's not widespread, right? So companies do spend a significant chunk of their money on, robust insurances. Insurances these days offer some very good value add services. They do focus on motherhood. They do focus on fertility and things like that. Some tiny, percentage of providers are also looking beyond that, and they're looking at mental. So the systems are slowly getting built. But Gayatri, the gap that Gayatri is essentially trying to fulfill is that the utilization rates of these are like pretty low. Okay. And many a time employees are not even aware of what are the well-being programs that they're entitled to. Like we have found ourselves so many times that, we are talking to, some DI official or some, CXO or something. And we've told them, and then the HR say, oh, but we already have XYZ. Why didn't you know that before? So that is how low the awareness is within a large company, that what are you even entitled to? So it's not well evangelized within the company. So that is the second thing. So even if people have something great, it's something that they do. It's not very well evangelized. It's not something that is actively. It's still something. It's just a virtual replica of the offline brick and mortar thing. That, okay, when I need something, I will do it. Now it's like when I need something, I will ping doctor app. But that is not healthcare, especially for women. So that is the second gap. The third gap is that areas of healthcare that are being serviced and prioritized. So in the recent, McKinsey report for women's health that caused a lot of waves, you may have noticed, they would say that they said that about 5% of the women's health burden is, of postpartum, maternal health and all of that. But more than, approximately 40 to 56% of women's healthcare burden is literally everything else, like hormonal health, periods, menopause, perimenopause, and endometriosis, autoimmune conditions. That is 40 to 56% of women's healthcare burden. But that is not what 80% of the workplace healthcare policies are solving for. And these are the conditions that, are affecting women's workplace performance even more. Maternity leave is still something that people are recognizing. It's something that's there, of course, it's still very imperfectly executed, but it's there. Everyone recognizes that, that requirement,
Yeah.
but the other things which actually lead to women quitting the workforce. So like, it's not about women are leaving the workforce because, they're not able to get pregnant. The fertility issues is a big thing. Miscarriages are something that a lot of workplaces, I mean, it's a very hush-hush situation. So the like imagining the imagination, the granularity with which women's health affects women at work, that imagination and that granularity is a bit impoverished. And that is something that we are identifying and calling out and actively solving for. So these are the three crucial gaps that we have found, and it's across the board.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, no, so that's super helpful, right? I think it is important to understand for all of us how the decision makers feel today. That's
Yeah.
that's where this question stemmed from, to be honest. Because even as somebody, I mean, this may not affect, say, me directly. This may not affect the solopreneur directly, but it's important to understand that people are making the large decisions and affecting a huge part of the workforce. What are they feeling? So that's helpful. So, the second part of what we wanted to chat with you about was honestly, your experience as a leader right now, right? And typically, before I ask people to give me advice, I try to sort of understand where they come from, because it's important, right? Like, where are you in life? And then how does that advice fit there? So before I ask you any kind of question, I wanna, and you can choose to share as many details or not. But what kind of family do you live in right now? You are building something from scratch, and that's not. It's a hectic job for sure. So what kind of family do you come from? What do responsibilities at home look like? What kind of support do you have at the moment? I'm curious about that.
Well, I am. I live with my husband, and we often, my in-laws are the same. I'm married. It's been 6 years. I got married pretty early. I'm not very old. I've been married for I've been married for 6 plus years. My husband is also an entrepreneur, very successful. He's a founder of a very popular company in India. So I used him as the tool for negotiation. I turned patriarchy on its head, and I forefronted my husband. When I took the leap, I mean, this is not with Gayatri, this is even with my previous, I ran a patient advocacy platform called Thea.
Yeah.
And it was not a VC funded, but we were funded by various, grants and other, sponsors, across the board. So at that time, I just fronted my then boyfriend, now husband, that, you tell them, because मेरी बात उनको सुननी नहीं है, you tell them. And he literally parroted the same thing. I said, oh, and my parents were, oh yeah, you must be right. So I'm like, cool, it is something that, and this is also something that I bond with my father-in-law about, that whenever, in the larger family, there is something to be negotiated, I'm like, Papa, you talk. And he's, this brilliant, guy. And even my mom-in-law, they're just like, they're just very curious learners. So even though there is like a massive generation gap in terms of, mentality and everything, but because they both have this learning, spirit behind them, so they have like kind of gotten with it, it's me and my husband. We are very proud prospective adoptive parents. In India, I don't know how much you know about adoption in India. This is something I wish to speak about more and more as we're more comfortable. We've been a bit tight-lipped about it because of processes and things, but India has some very good adoption policies now. And we filed for adoption about 3 years ago. And while it's a very long wait, we are, I mean, the new addition to our family is not very long way off as of right now. So we are very proud, eager, cheesy, prospective adoptive parents. And so that's what my overall life is right now. In terms of how that impacts my work, in a very big way, of course, I definitely recognize that despite me coming from a very entrepreneurship averse, traditional minded, my roots are that way. But I think it's me and my sister, and my sister is also, like, she's, I think, your age. She's in her early 20s, and, she's much younger than me. And while my parents are extremely traditional and rather conservative, they have still been cautiously supportive of our dreams and aspirations. Of course, they're always cautious and things like that. So over a period of time, we've been able to, with the ups and downs that I think most women have to kind of go through with their families when they're making such decisions. Those ups and downs have happened, but, there is a wide degree of acceptance that, forge your own path. Now within that framework, as of today, I think one of the things that I always tell young women, or even older women, or women my age across the spectrum, that, we often design and strategize our CV and our professional lives, but, the feeder of that is the life outside of your work. It is I don't know, I think a lot of famous women have now said this. I think Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama and all other cool women, that, who you're marrying is, it's a career choice. It's so true, like, I mean, there are a lot of women who, their partners or their spouse, they're not unsupportive, but they might be apologists. That, हाँ यार, देख लो, थोड़ा कर लो, something, but I think you need to train yourself and, your partner to become your unguarded, unabashed cheerleader and do the same. So I think it is important to design a life. You have to strategize that also, because, for example, a lot of people ask me, okay, two founders under the same roof, does it get fun? I'm like, no, it's exhausting and anxious. And there are times when both of us are like not sleeping, there are some. So what we normally talk about is, okay, that we recognize and identify and prioritize cycles. So his company is, of course, first of all, every company is dealing with the same things, but at a different level, like sales, marketing, revenue, investors. It's the same story everywhere, but of course, in different stages and different. So we recognize and are mindful of each other's cycles. That right now, I need a bit more, because I'm at an early stage. Or right now, he needs a bit more because there's this large, some cycle, in his. So we're a bit mindful of each other's cycles. I think that's very important. And that is something that can be extrapolated for any, set of working couples and all of that. It's very important to talk shop at home, because you learn about, each other, as problem solvers, as what personality you're taking to work, and how you can help each other. I think your spouses are, other than your best friends and girlfriends, which you should cultivate a lot of, your spouses are, your witnesses.
Yeah.
They're not just your spouses and partners, they're your witnesses. So I think that partnership is important. I think that is how, at least that's what has worked for me. So that's what I do. And yeah, when the kids come along, I'm sure I'll have some other thing to say.
Yeah.
So, but
I'm so glad you said that you must talk shop at home. I've had so many people, I've read this also, and I've had so many people tell me, oh, leave work outside home, and I've never been convinced of it, okay? And I didn't have a backing. I mean, what do I know about leaving shop at home or not, right? Like, I don't know anything. What I do is bring a lot of shop and tell my mom about it. So thank God you said that, because like, and it may be different for multiple people, to be
it's
honest.
different for different people. This is
Yeah,
what has
right.
worked for me, because I mean,
Exactly.
see, there's also one thing that uh, this is something you have to also regiment. For example, we say that, if we've got Saturday and Sunday, we
Yeah.
will not spend both days talking work.
Yeah.
One day is just for chillaxing, and one day we need to like just give each other a daily, like the download of the week,
Yeah.
brainstorm, do some whatever, stuff. And the other day we're just like chillax. So I think the reason I say that you must talk shop is because that's how you really keep a nerve, keep a handle on what your partner, in which direction your partner is growing,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can make several micro decisions
And
better, I think.
especially when it's a big part of your life, right? Like this is not a job that you do just for money. I mean, think of it that way, right? Like, for example, if it's a job that you do
Certainly not.
outside,
Yeah.
exactly, it's certainly not, right? I mean, it's a huge part of your life, not all of it, but huge part. So, yeah, that's quite interesting, I think. Uh, You know what I remembered when you said this, Swarnima? I on our first call, right, when we like call DM'd you and you spoke to us. When I was talking about decoding Draupadi to you, you told me, and I'd gone back and told this to Anshika very like excitedly in my notes. You had told me never, like, when you go out in the world, know that you carry the risk of being seen as a charity, especially because one, you're a woman run business and you're working for women, like you're solving for women, right? And then only when you don't treat your business as a charity, even in the words you choose, like you would, and we didn't talk about this in detail, it was a short call, but you were told me that, even in the words you choose, the way you describe it, be mindful of that because it starts there. Um, and this is my version and interpretation of it. If I could ask you to talk about that again, and not just to me and Anshika today, but to other businesses out there. I'd love for you to comment on that because I haven't forgotten it since. So I think that would be the last sort of question we had. If I know it's been say 53 minutes of you talking, but yeah, if we could sort of
Yeah.
end with that, I would love that.
No, I think, again, all that we're talking about is with the caveat that, of course, things are changing for the better. Of course, there have been some trailblazing VCs and founders and like successful, business women and entrepreneurs who are changing the narrative. But um, I do feel that young women in any kind of workplace, uh, by and large, they're, there's a certain lens with which, they are perceived, right? And this is something that we have faced as a women's health company that, see, okay, I'll just tell you, like, just look up the data. This is something that is widely decried globally, not just in India. There are always more women signing up for voluntary positions. There are always more women, sort of signing up for impact sector jobs, okay, which are by and large, broadly not as deeply financially lucrative as, I don't know, being a Wall Street person or something. So the gender ratio in certain industries, which are not incredibly financially rewarding, that is something that is backed by data as of today. Okay. And it would be remiss to not read into it, right? Because a lot of women, they're like, of course, everyone wants to do purpose driven stuff these days. But I think women are historically, they feel a bit apologetic or embarrassed or unsure about negotiating better financially, And I do think that if you're a young woman, and I mean, in the scheme of things in the workplace, you guys are like really young, and I'm also talking about myself. I'm in my early 30s, okay, and I'm also relatively pretty young in the ecosystem of the corporate or the like in the position that I'm in. And it is definitely a negotiation because like experience is something, gray hair is whatever, like experience is something that people value. But women's experience, I think women even at a corporate, even when they're like a little, there is an invisibilization that they deal with. When women are 50 plus or something like that, a lot of women are fighting back against that impulse. Then there are younger women who fight their own kind of invisibilization. So I think there needs to be a bit more audacity, I would say. I don't want to use the word courage, confidence, this, that. I think that systemically it's not fostered that well. I just want to use the word audacity. Have the audacity to ask and have the audacity to brand yourself better, because it is audacity. It is at the end of it is audacious, So I just feel that, when it comes to this is something that we've seen as a women's start, that just because you are women's health and it is something that is changing the society for the better, people sometimes get very offended when we charge for very high quality services, and we're like, but why not? This is expertise, isn't it? It's moving the needle for you, isn't it? So why not? Why do low blow ourselves? So we have some, we've had some serious conversations about, things like we don't like to do a lot of stuff free of cost. Okay, we have some policies about it. Just this is just an internal thing, that, and I have also had the same thing that I must negotiate better for myself, financially. It's about getting or not getting is not always in my hands, but I think it is important for women at work to wonder if they get a better deal, as a salesperson, from your customer, as an employee from your employer, as anything, as a collaborator, as anything, And I definitely think that, when women are solving for women in spaces like financial independence or healthcare, people do feel a bit iffy about there being a price tag attached to it. We've definitely seen this quite a bit, and it's a problem. So, where even I've also seen this. Let me just tell you, I've also seen this. That there are a lot of, like, you provide services for early stage entrepreneurs and stuff, right? Uh, I have seen a lot of early stage female entrepreneurs also not pay younger women or younger service providers very well and say, you know what, get with the vision, get with the passion, but hello, it's not okay. All right. I understand that there are financial constraints. I understand, but I just feel that if you are to be a leader, if you are to be a change maker, you have to look out for your financial bottom line and of any other woman who's in your ambit. Otherwise, it's just more of the same, I feel. Otherwise, it's just more of the same. It's just like, women doing the same thing. It doesn't contribute to systemic change fast enough. So I do feel that we have to be a bit mindful of it. It's great to be vision driven. It's great to be purpose and passion driven, but the financial bottom line matters, and may we never forget that.
Audacity is the pin-worthy, is like the theme of this, I think. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was definitely something to process. Anshika, do you have a thought on this before I tell Swarnima to share a last thought if she does?
No.
Actually, sorry, I just want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
So I say audacity. There's something that I want to talk about is also being strategic, right? A lot of people think that, okay, if I just make a supremely high demand, I will land somewhere. But, a lot of people make stupid strategic errors, in that situation. Whenever you're negotiating, you must, again, like I said, if you're a salesperson or a marketer or an employee in just imagine any negotiation where financials or some kind of return to you is this thing, you must, do your research. You must do your homework. You must have some references. You must have some benchmarks. Be prepared. I think that preparation is just as important to fuel that audacity. Like, there is a difference between audacity and entitlement, and no, because the latter is just unstrategic. Be very have a bit of a strategy and a financial calculation behind what you're asking. For example, if I charge my customer an XYZ amount, okay, so if something seems a bit high, slightly higher, then I have done the market benchmarking. If my customer were to open up any other site, okay, they can clearly see that, okay, it is lower than this because of XYZ reason, but it is higher than this because of XYZ reason. It must be communicated. It must be, strategized very well. This is something that a lot of people fail to do, even in a negotiation for your financial growth. Do some benchmarking, all right? Have a grounds, have a well-prepared argument. That is how you get taken very seriously, okay? Your audacity will get fueled by preparation and by strategy, right? So this is just an element that I want to add, which a lot of people just don't talk about, and we must.
I think that nuance is super important, right? Like, it's not a Pinterest quote, right?
Yes.
Right, exactly.
And I'm by the way, I'm very old school that way. I'm like the worst at giving Pinteresty quotes.
Yeah.
I go into detailed explanations, and Shelly, my founder, she's always like, oh my God, the level of detail is great. But your interviews mein thoda sa matlab be crisp. She's not wrong, but yeah.
No, I get that. I think, see, it's about packaging. What I do understand for sure is I'm not a fan of a lot of people on Twitter, X, putting a hot take out without any nuance. Okay, like it is. See, it is great. I remember it, but like you missed out on nuance. You got in the eyeballs. So I think it's about packaging. But I'm glad you added that layer. Right? I think it's super important. Yes, Anshika, sorry, you were saying something.
Oh, no.
Awesome. Okay. So, Anima, anything else from your side before we wrap up? Otherwise, just a big thank you.
Oh, I really enjoyed this conversation.